I still remember the smell of lilies at my father's funeral. They lined the church in neat white rows, their perfume so thick it felt like drowning. I stood at the front, staring at the closed casket, unable to process that the man who taught me to ride a bike, who sat through every terrible school play, who called me every Sunday without fail, was gone. Dad had been sick for 2 years. Cancer. The kind that slowly steals everything from you, your strength, your dignity, your hope. I had taken a leave from my teaching job to care for him in those final months. My brother Marcus lived 3 states away with his wife Jennifer, and while he visited occasionally, the day-to-day reality of watching our father fade had fallen to me. I didn't mind. Not really. Dad and I had always been close. After Mom died when I was 16, we'd become a team. Marcus had pulled away after her death, built a new life elsewhere. But I stayed. I became the keeper of family traditions, the one who showed up. The funeral was packed. Dad had been a beloved high school principal for 30 years, and it seemed like half the town had come to pay respects. I stood greeting people in a fog, accepting condolences I barely heard, shaking hands that felt disconnected from my body. That's when I saw Marcus and Jennifer arrive. My brother looked tired, older than his 42 years. Jennifer, on the other hand, looked composed. Too composed. She wore a black designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Her blonde hair pulled back in an elegant bun. Her makeup perfect despite the supposedly somber occasion. "Sarah," Marcus said, pulling me into a brief, stiff hug. "I'm sorry I couldn't get here sooner. The funeral is at 2. I said quietly. "You made it?" Jennifer kissed the air near my cheek, her perfume cutting through the lilies with something sharp and expensive. "It's all so tragic," she said, her voice carrying that practiced sympathy that sounds rehearsed. "Your father was such a wonderful man." She'd met him maybe 5 times in the 8 years she'd been married to Marcus. The service was beautiful. Dad's former colleagues spoke about his dedication to students, his terrible jokes, his unwavering belief that every kid deserved a second chance. I was supposed to give a eulogy, but when I stood at the podium, the words I'd carefully prepared dissolved. Instead, I told a story about how Dad once drove for hours in a snowstorm to pick me up from college. When my car broke down, how he'd brought my favorite Chinese takeout and didn't mention that. He'd missed an important meeting to do it. I saw Marcus wipe his eyes. Jennifer checked her phone after the service. People gathered at Dad's house, my house now. I supposed, though I couldn't think of it that way yet. The same house where I'd grown up, where Dad had insisted I stay when I came back to care for him, where I'd held his hand in the converted downstairs bedroom as he took his last breath. I was in the kitchen, mechanically arranging sandwiches someone had brought, when Jennifer's voice carried from the living room. She wasn't speaking quietly. "Well, obviously Marcus will inherit the house," she was saying to a cluster of Dad's friends and neighbors. "He's the oldest son, and frankly, it's the most valuable asset. Sarah's been living here rent-free for months anyway. We'll probably sell it. The market is excellent right now, and we could use the equity for the lake house we've been looking at." I froze. A plate of cookies halfway to the dining room table. Mrs. Chen, our neighbor for 20 years, said gently, "I'm not sure that's how it works, dear. Don't they have to read the will first?" Jennifer laughed, that tinkling, condescending laugh she used when she thought someone was being charmingly naive. "The will is just a formality. Estate law is very clear about these things. As the primary male heir, Marcus has rights to the family property. My father is an attorney, so I've actually researched this quite extensively." My hands started shaking. The plate rattled. "And honestly," Jennifer continued, her voice dropping to a stage whisper that somehow carried even further, "Sarah hasn't exactly been responsible with finances. She's a public school teacher, for God's sake. She can barely support herself. Dad probably knew Marcus would be the better steward of his estate. It's just practical. Something hot and sharp twisted in my chest. I set the plate down before I dropped it. Murr. Patterson, Dad's best friend for 40 years, cleared his throat. Jennifer, I really think you should wait for the will reading before making any assumptions. I'm not making assumptions, Jennifer interrupted smoothly. I'm stating facts. Marcus and I have already spoken to a real estate agent about the property value. We're thinking of listing it in the spring. That timing works better for tax purposes. I walked into the living room. Every eye turned to me, and I saw the pity, the discomfort, the secondhand embarrassment on behalf of these people who'd known me since I was a child. Jennifer, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Can I speak to you in the kitchen? She followed me with an expression of faint annoyance, as if I were interrupting something important. Once we were alone, she crossed her arms. Sarah, I know this must be difficult for you, but we need to be practical about Dad's estate. His name was Robert, I said quietly. You could at least use his actual name, she blinked. What, my father? His name was Robert. You keep calling him Dad like you were his daughter, but you barely knew him. You didn't sit with him during chemo. You didn't hold the basin when he was sick. You didn't read to him when he couldn't sleep because the pain was too bad. You don't get to call him Dad and pretend you were part of his life. Jennifer's perfectly made-up face hardened. I'm Marcus's wife. That made me part of the family. Being part of the family means showing up, I said. And you didn't. Some of us, Jennifer said icily, have careers and responsibilities that don't allow us to drop everything and play nurse. Marcus has an executive position. I have a career in pharmaceutical sales. We couldn't just abandon our lives. I didn't abandon mine. I paused it. Because that's what you do for people you love. Jennifer's expression shifted to something that looked almost like pity. Sarah, you're upset. You're grieving. I understand. But once you've had time to process, you'll see that Marcus managing Dad's Robert's estate is really the best option. You'll probably get some money, of course. Enough to get your own apartment, start fresh. It'll be good for you. I stared at her. The will hasn't been read yet. It's a formality, she repeated, turning to leave. You'll see. I stood alone in Dad's kitchen in the kitchen, where he taught me to make his famous spaghetti sauce. Where we'd sat at the table doing my homework. Where he told me about his diagnosis and felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger. Exactly. Something harder, clearer. Determination. The will reading was scheduled for the following Tuesday at Dad's attorney's office. Marcus and Jennifer drove in from their suburb in a new Mercedes. I came from the house I'd been told I'd need to vacate soon, wearing the same black dress I'd worn to the funeral because I hadn't had the energy to change. Thomas Weatherby had been Dad's attorney for 25 years. He was a kind man with white hair and half-moon glasses who'd known me since I was a teenager. When we entered his office, he greeted me with a warm hug that lasted several seconds longer than professional courtesy required. Sarah, he said softly, I'm so sorry for your loss. Your father was a remarkable man. Thank you, Mr. Weatherby. He nodded to Marcus and Jennifer with professional politeness, and we all sat down. Jennifer immediately leaned forward. Mr. Weatherby, I appreciate you arranging this so quickly. Marcus and I have several matters to discuss regarding the estate, particularly the house. We've already begun preliminary conversations with real estate professionals, Mrs. Hayes. Mr. Weatherby interrupted gently but firmly. Perhaps we should read the will first? Jennifer sat back, looking slightly annoyed, but nodded graciously. Mr. Weatherby opened a folder and withdrew several documents. He put on his reading glasses and cleared his throat. This is the last will and testament of Robert Michael Thompson, executed on October 15th of this year, superseding all previous wills and codicils. October 15th. That was just 3 weeks before Dad died. Marcus leaned forward slightly. Jennifer's hand found his, her thumb stroking his knuckles in what looked like anticipatory excitement. Mr. Weatherby began to read. The first section covered the standard legal language. Then came the specific bequests. To my son, Marcus William Thompson, I leave my collection of vintage baseball cards, which he helped me start when he was a boy, and which I hope will remind him of the afternoons we spent together before life got complicated. I also leave him my fishing equipment and the memories of our trips to Lake Morrison before distance came between us. The appraised value of these items is approximately $8,000. Marcus's face didn't change, but I saw his hand tighten slightly around Jennifer's. Jennifer's lips were pressed together in a thin line dotmer. Weatherby continued. To Marcus's wife, Jennifer Hayes Thompson, I leave my gratitude for making my son happy, and my hope that in time, she will understand that family is built through presence, not pronouncements. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Jennifer's face flushed red. What is that supposed to mean? Mr. Weatherby kept reading, his voice steady. To my daughter, Sarah Elizabeth Thompson, who set aside her own dreams to ensure I didn't die alone, who read to me, who held my hand, who reminded me every single day what it means to love without condition, I leave the following. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I leave her my house at 42 Maple Street, fully paid, along with all its contents, with the hope that it will continue to be a home filled with the love and warmth she brought to my final years. Jennifer gasped. Marcus's eyes widened. I leave her my investment portfolio, currently valued at approximately $750,000, as well as my pension and life insurance benefits, totaling an additional $300,000. The room was silent except for the sound of Jennifer's sharp breathing. I leave her my car, my books, my photographs, and every other possession not specifically bequeathed to Marcus. More importantly, I leave her my pride, my gratitude, and my eternal love. She was my constant companion, my caregiver, my friend, and the daughter who showed me that family is not about obligation, but about showing up, day after day, even when it's hard. Mr. Weatherby set down the document and looked at me over his glasses. His eyes were kind, understanding. I couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down my face, but I didn't make a sound. Marcus looked stunned, but not angry, just sad, like he was realizing something he'd been refusing to see. Jennifer, on the other hand, shot to her feet. This is ridiculous, she shouted. This can't be legal. Marcus is the oldest child. He has rights. You can't just, this is discrimination. We'll contest this. My father is an attorney, and your father is a corporate tax attorney in Delaware, Mr. Weatherby said calmly. And this will is completely legal and will hold up to any contest you wish to mount. Robert was of completely sound mind when he made these decisions. I have medical documentation to that effect. He knew exactly what he was doing. She manipulated him. Jennifer's voice was rising, becoming shrill. She isolated him, convinced him to cut out his own son. This is elder abuse. I visited your father 4 times in his final year, Mr. Weatherby said, his voice still calm but with an edge of steel now. Each time at his request. Each time, he was clear-minded, articulate, and absolutely certain of his wishes. He did not wish to punish Marcus. He wished to honor Sarah. There is a difference. Marcus, Jennifer turned to her husband. Say something. This is your inheritance. She's stealing what's rightfully yours. Marcus stood slowly. He looked at me, really looked at me, for what felt like the first time in years. She didn't steal anything, he said quietly. I gave it away. I gave it away when I stopped coming home, when I made excuses, when I let Sarah handle everything while I convinced myself my job was too important. Marcus, Jennifer's voice was desperate now. She was there, Jen, every day, and I wasn't. He paused, his voice breaking slightly. Dad didn't cut me out. He gave me exactly what I earned. The silence that followed was deafening. Jennifer grabbed her purse, her movements jerky with rage and humiliation. Fine. Fine. You can have this pathetic little house in your poverty-level inheritance, Sarah. I'm sure it'll make you very happy in your very small life. Marcus, we're leaving. She stormed out. Marcus hesitated, looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Regret, maybe, or shame, or some combination of both. Sarah, you should go, I said quietly. She's waiting. He nodded slowly and left. Weatherby and I sat in silence for a long moment. Then he reached across his desk and handed me a tissue box. Your father wanted me to give you something else, he said. He wrote you a letter. He asked me to give it to you after the will was read, in private. He handed me an envelope. My name was written on it in Dad's shaky handwriting. Take your time, Mr. Weatherby said. I'll be in the conference room when you're ready to discuss the details. He left, closing the door gently behind him. I held the envelope for a long time before I could bring myself to open it. When I finally did, Dad's words stared up at me in that familiar scrawl that had gotten progressively shakier. Over the final months, my dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. And you know now what I wanted you to have. I hope you're not angry with me for putting you in this position. I know it may cause tension with Marcus, and that's the last thing you need while grieving. But I need you to understand something. This wasn't about money or property or assets. This was about recognizing what matters. You gave up so much to be with me at the end. Your job, your time, your freedom. You could have visited on weekends like Marcus did. You could have made it someone else's problem. But you didn't. You stayed. You held my hand when I was scared. You made me laugh when I wanted to give up. You read to me, talked to me, treated me like I was still me. Even when the disease made me unrecognizable. The house, the money, these are not rewards. They're inadequate thank yous. They're my way of making sure you have security, that your sacrifice didn't leave you with nothing. Marcus is my son, and I love him. But love isn't blind, sweetheart. I saw him pull away after your mother died. I saw him build a life that had less and less room for his family. I saw him choose comfort over connection. That was his right, and I don't resent him for it. But I won't pretend it didn't happen. You stayed. You always stayed. From the moment your mother died, you were the one who held our family together. You were 16 years old, and you became my partner in grief, my reason to keep going. And now, at the end, you did it again. So please don't feel guilty about this inheritance. You earned it in ways that have nothing to do with money. You earned it through every sleepless night, every difficult conversation, every moment you chose presence over comfort. Jennifer will be angry. She's the type who measures worth in dollars and property. Let her be angry. Her opinion of your life doesn't define its value. Marcus will be hurt. That breaks my heart. But maybe, in time, this will help him understand what matters. What I hope he'll learn is that inheritance isn't about birth order or gender or legal precedent. It's about showing up. It's about love as action, not just words. Asterisk, asterisk, I'm proud of you, Sarah. Not because you took care of me, but because you're the kind of person who would. You're kind, patient, selfless, and strong. You get those qualities from your mother. I just got lucky enough to raise you. Asterisk, asterisk, use this money to build a life that makes you happy. Go back to teaching, travel, fall in love, have adventures. Do all the things you put on hold for me. Asterisk, asterisk, and please, try not to hate your brother. He's flawed, and he made mistakes, but he's still your family. Give him time to find his way back, if he wants to. But don't sacrifice yourself for him the way you sacrificed yourself for me. You've given enough. Asterisk, asterisk, I love you, sweetheart. I always will. And I'm not really gone. I'm in every room of that house, in every memory. In every moment you choose love over fear. Asterisk, asterisk, thank you for being my daughter. Thank you for staying. Asterisk, asterisk, all my love. Always. Asterisk, asterisk, Dad, asterisk, I sat in Mr. Weatherby's office and cried until I had no tears left. The next few weeks were strange. The news spread through town quickly. Small communities are like that. Some people congratulated me. Others gave me pitying looks, as if I'd somehow done something wrong by accepting my father's gifts. I ignored them all. I focused on sorting through the house, deciding what to keep and what to donate. Every item felt heavy with memory. Dad's favorite reading chair, the dining table where we'd eaten 1,000 meals, the photographs covering every wall, documenting a lifetime of moments. Marcus called once, 3 days after the will reading. His voice was quiet, uncertain. Sarah, I'm sorry, he said, for everything. For not being there more. For Jennifer's behavior at the reading. For all of it. Okay, I said. I didn't know what else to say. She's saying terrible things about you. About Dad. I told her to stop. But he trailed off. I'm thinking about things. About what matters. I just wanted you to know that. Okay, I said again. Could I visit sometime? Just me? I'd like to go through Dad's baseball card collection, if that's okay. Maybe we could talk. I thought about Dad's letter, about not hating my brother, about giving him time. Yeah, I said, that would be okay. He came the following Saturday, alone. We sat in the living room with the baseball cards spread across the coffee table. And for the first time in years, we talked, really talked. He told me about how he'd felt inadequate after Mom died, how he'd watched me step into her role so naturally while he'd felt lost and useless, how he'd thrown himself into work and achievements because it was the only place he felt competent, how distance had become easier than confronting his own failure to grieve properly. I told him about the weight of being the one who stayed, about the guilt I sometimes felt over resenting him for leaving, about how exhausting it had been to watch Dad die slowly while trying to hold everything together. We didn't fix everything. You can't repair years of distance in one afternoon. But we started. Jennifer, I heard through mutual acquaintances, was furious for months. She'd apparently told everyone who would listen that I'd manipulated a dying man, that I'd stolen what was rightfully Marcus's, that the will would be overturned any day. Asterisk, it wasn't. Of course, asterisk, eventually, the gossip died down. Life moved forward, the way it always does. Asterisk, I went back to teaching that fall. My fourth graders were loud, chaotic, exhausting, and perfect. Every day they reminded me why I'd chosen this profession. Why Dad had been so proud when I told him I wanted to be a teacher like him. The house stopped feeling like a shrine to grief and started feeling like a home again. I painted the bedroom I'd grown up in, turning it into a reading nook with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. I hosted Thanksgiving dinner, and Marcus came without Jennifer, who'd apparently decided she had a scheduling conflict. I used some of Dad's money to establish a scholarship fund at his old school, the Robert Thompson Second Chance Scholarship, for students who'd struggled but hadn't given up. Dad would have loved that. I kept the rest invested, following the advice of a financial planner who helped me understand that having money didn't mean I had to change who I was. I still shopped at thrift stores. I still drove Dad's old Camry. I still made his spaghetti sauce every Sunday. But I also booked a trip to Italy, something Dad and I had always talked about doing together. I scattered some of his ashes in Rome at the Trevi fountain because he'd always said that's where he'd proposed to Mom if he'd been romantic enough to plan it properly. About a year after Dad died, Marcus showed up at my door on a Tuesday evening, unannounced. He looked tired, older. There was no Mercedes in the driveway, just a modest Honda. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside, and he entered the house slowly, looking around like he was seeing it for the first time. "I left her," he said without preamble. "Jennifer, 3 months ago. The divorce is almost final." I waited. She couldn't let it go. He continued, sitting heavily on the couch. "The will. The house, the money." She brought it up constantly. How you'd stolen from us. How I was weak for not fighting you. How pathetic it was that I was visiting you. Colluding with the enemy is how she put it. He laughed bitterly. "The enemy. You're my sister, and she called you the enemy." "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. "Don't be." I finally realized something. She didn't love me. She loved what I represented, the status, the income, the lifestyle. When I started prioritizing family over career advancement, when I chose you over her version of what our life should be, she couldn't handle it. He looked at me. Dad was right about her. He saw her more clearly than I ever did. We sat in silence for a while. Then Marcus asked, "Did you keep any of his books?" "The Ray Bradbury collection?" "Of course. They're in the den." We spent the evening reading passages from * dandelion wine * and * something wicked this way comes *. Remembering the summer Dad had read them aloud to us as kids, doing different voices for every character. It was the most time Marcus and I had spent together in 15 years. He started coming over regularly after that. We fell into a routine Sunday dinners, Marcus's idea. He'd bring groceries, and we'd cook together, trying to recreate Dad's recipes and usually failing in ways that made us laugh until we cried. Slowly, carefully, we rebuilt what we'd lost. One evening, about 2 years after Dad's death, Mrs. Chen knocked on my door with a casserole and news. "That woman," she said, not needing to specify which woman. "She's been telling people at the grocery store that karma got you, that you're all alone in this big house with no husband, no children, nothing but your father's guilt money." I should have been angry. Instead, I found myself smiling. "Mrs. Chen," I said, "I have a house filled with memories of the man who raised me. I have students who write me letters about how I changed their lives. I have my brother back. I have Sunday dinners and book clubs and a scholarship fund that's helped 12 kids go to college. I have a life built on presence and love and showing up." I paused, thinking about Jennifer's definition of worth: the designer clothes, the expensive car, the lake house she'd been planning to buy with money from Dad's house. "Jennifer measures life in assets and acquisitions," I continued. "I measure it in moments and meaning. By her standards, maybe I am poor. By mine, I'm the richest person I know." Mrs. Chen hugged me, her eyes suspiciously bright. That night, I sat in Dad's reading chair, my reading chair now, and thought about everything that had happened. Jennifer had been so certain she understood how the world worked, how inheritance worked, how worth was calculated. She'd been right that the will was a formality, just not in the way she'd expected. The real inheritance, the one that mattered, wasn't the house or the money. It was the knowledge that I'd shown up, that I'd loved without expectation of return, That I'd held my father's hand as he died and could look back without regret. Jennifer never understood that some things can't be measured in dollars, can't be bought or sold or contested in court. She'd lost something she never actually had. I'd gained something that could never be taken away. 3 years after Dad died, I was in the garden, his garden, really, that I was learning to maintain when I heard a car pull up. I looked up to see Marcus getting out, and there was someone with him, a woman about our age, with kind eyes and a genuine smile. "Sarah," Marcus said, looking nervous and happy in equal measure, "this is Amy. I wanted you to meet her." Amy shook my hand warmly. "Marcus talks about you all the time," she said, "and about your father. I've heard so many stories that I feel like I know you both." We had dinner that night, the three of us, around Dad's old table. Amy was a pediatric nurse, divorced, with 2 teenage kids who were with their father that weekend. She asked thoughtful questions about Dad, about teaching, about the scholarship fund. She listened more than she spoke. As I watched Marcus with her, the way he looked at her, the gentle way they interacted, I realized he'd learned something too. He'd learned the difference between image and substance, between what looks good and what is good. After they left, I found Marcus had left something on the counter, a framed photograph I'd never seen before. It was from my college graduation. Dad and Marcus and me, arms around each other, all of us laughing at something the photographer had said. On the back, in Marcus's handwriting, asterisk, "Some inheritances take longer to claim than others. Thank you for not giving up on me. Love, your brother." Asterisk, I placed it on the mantle, next to the photograph of Dad from his last birthday, the one where he was surrounded by flowers I'd picked from the garden. His smile tired but genuine. If you're listening to this story and you stayed until now, thank you. Thank you for understanding that revenge isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's simply living well, loving fully, and refusing to let someone else's narrow definition of worth diminish your own. Jennifer wanted me to feel small, cheated, inadequate. Instead, she gave me the gift of clarity. She showed me exactly who I wasn't and exactly who I wanted to be. That's the thing about people who measure everything in dollars and status. They can't see the wealth that really matters. And by the time they realize what they've missed, it's usually too late. I hope Marcus found his way to that realization in time. I think he did. As for Jennifer, I don't know where she is now or what she's doing. I don't think about her much anymore. She was so certain she knew how the story would end. So confident in her understanding of how inheritance works. She was right about one thing. Though the will was just a formality. The real inheritance, the love, the lessons, the time spent showing up was decided long before the lawyers got involved. And I'd already claimed it. If this story meant something to you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had someone underestimate your worth? Have you ever had to choose between what looks good and what is good? Let me know your stories. And if you stayed until the end, thank you for being here. Thank you for understanding that sometimes the best revenge is simply living a life that proves them wrong, not through anger or bitterness, but through presence, purpose, and peace. That's the inheritance that truly lasts.